Thanks, Darcy. Yes, so it's great to be here, and as the Minister responsible for cities, Assistant to the Prime Minister, which is, of course, cities being one of his great passions, it's great to be here and talk about what we're doing in this area. And of course, it's been an enormous year, beginning with one of a first for Australia, which is creating a cities portfolio within the Prime Minister's department. It's never been done before, and it tells you something of the emphasis and importance and priority that the Prime Minister's placed on cities as a policy area, recognising that the federal government doesn't do planning, but the federal government plays very significant roles in our cities. And so, as I say, this has been a first. And what I thought I'd do today is just spend a bit of time talking about our policy, and in particular, I'll spend a moment towards the end focusing on a program that we'd love people like you to be involved in. It's a well-funded program, and one that I think many in this room have the potential to participate in. I may be biased, but I do think this is one of the portfolio areas where we're pushing harder than almost any other. And some of the things I'll describe today that we've achieved in the last 6 months, or achieving, I think are very significant for Australia and have the potential to have impact both in the short term and the much longer term. Now, I don't need to tell anyone in this room about the importance of cities. You all know that. I do want to say that I think we underemphasise it in Australia, not just in terms of our capital cities, but also in terms of our regional cities. And you only have to look at the geography of politics in the Western world to see the role that cities are playing. When I look at the Brexit result or the Trump result, or even the federal election result, I can see the pattern. As a politician, I see the pattern, which goes right back not just to the politics, but to the underlying economics and cultural issues that are going on in our cities. And as someone who represents outer suburban areas and a regional city, I see this every day. Our cities are changing dramatically, and we need to adapt our policy with it. There is no doubt in my mind that we are continuing to see rapid growth of jobs, high-income jobs, in our CBDs, particularly our capital city CBDs like this one and Melbourne. But our outer suburbs and our regional cities are not participating in the same way. And much of what you'll see in what we're doing in cities policy is addressing exactly these issues. We do think it's important to keep our CBDs, our capital city growth centres, which are typically in the centre of our cities, growing. That's incredibly important, but we need to make sure our regional cities and our outer suburban areas are also part of it. Now, when we announced our Smart Cities plan back in April last year, we said there were 3 parts to that plan. The first was smart policy, second smart investment, and third smart technology. And I'll spend a little bit of time on each of those. And let me start with smart policy. At the heart of our approach to policy in this area is a mechanism that was first used in the UK in 2011 called city deals. And a city deal is a very simple idea. It is that federal, state and local government should collaborate, align behind a set of objectives for a city, and that we should, arm in arm, go out and say to that city, there are no excuses now. We can't all point the finger at each other and say, no, that's the local government's problem or that's state government's problem. We are here to meet those objectives. And that's what we're seeking to do in city deals. It's what the UK has been seeking to do in city deals now for a number of years. Most importantly, their aim is to secure investment and reform across governments, 3 levels of government in Australia, the private sector and the community. And by doing that, we're cutting across the silos that you normally see in our cities. That really means looking at the city as a whole, looking at the way we spend money, the way we drive programs, and adjusting that for the needs of that individual city. Now, we announced during the election campaign that we'd pursue initially 3, one in Townsville, one in Launceston, and one in Western Sydney. And as harking back to my earlier comments, 2 regional cities and 1 outer suburban. The first of those was completed last week. in Townsville, and I'm very pleased to say that we now have a city deal in place, and if you want to see it, you can go on and see it on the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet's website. It gives you a very strong sense of what we are trying to achieve in this area. It was signed by the Premier, the Mayor of Townsville and the Prime Minister last week, and it really is an attempt to get every aspect of all three levels of government aligned behind a set of objectives for Townsville. Top of the list is jobs. In regional cities, it is jobs, jobs, jobs and jobs. And in Townsville, we see through that city deal a very strong focus in the short term on construction jobs, a renewal of the city centre around the riverfront there, and also renewal of the industrial area out around the port and railway industrial zones. Those two construction projects are incredibly important then to pave way for longer term jobs that we see, medium term jobs in tourism, in education and in defence. Government, of course, plays a huge role in Townsville in defence. So that alignment across the three levels of government has worked. And if you speak to the Deputy Premier who led the work from the Queensland Government side, or the Mayor, there is no doubt that all of us were surprised at how effective it was to actually start aligning behind the interests of this great city of 180,000 people of Townsville. So that's the first of our deals, and we're very proud with what we've been able to get to there and where that is taking us. The second is Launceston, and I was there yesterday. This is a city with enormous potential. It's Northern Australia's largest city and a key services hub for northern Tasmania. It has a strong focus on tourism, agriculture and forestry, and increasingly on education as well. It faces a number of challenges, but the heart of the city deal is turning Launceston into a genuine university town. A genuine university town. One of the things we forget is that some of the greatest universities in the world are regional universities. Australians, this is often lost on Australians. And I say, if you want to transform a regional city, one of the best ways to do it is to turn it into a university town. I was lucky enough to go to to live for a couple of years and study in one of the great university towns of the UK, which was Oxford. And of course, not in a capital city. We haven't got that tradition in this country, but it's time, I think, to change it, and that's exactly what we're seeking to do in Launceston, along with that increasing the vibrancy of the CBD and creating conditions for lasting job and growth through industry-led skills development. So again, a regional city and one where we see enormous potential. And then the third, and probably the biggest that we're working on at the moment, is the Western Sydney City Deal. And some of you will have seen press in the last day or so about Western Sydney Airport. We see this as an opportunity to create a city in its own right. The idea that Sydney can continue to be a city where people work in the east and live, in many cases, in the west is not sustainable. And anyone who drives from west to east in the morning and east to west in the afternoon, the squinters as some of them people like to call us because we're always driving into the sun, will understand, anyone who does that on a regular basis will understand how desperate the need is to transform the way Sydney works, and in particular create Western Sydney as a city in its own right, where we don't have 300,000 people each day leaving the city to get to work. And so the Western Sydney Airport is an absolutely crucial initiative. Around it, jobs, infrastructure, skill development, universities and so on are absolutely central. We've negotiated, as I say, one city deal, two are on the way, and more are to come. For regional cities, it'll be a contestable process, and for the capital cities, we will work our way progressively through the capital cities across the country. Now, building on the engagement we've had on this to date, I'll be establishing a number of smart policy initiatives in the new year, and one of these is a cities reference group. This will draw participants from academia, industry groups, NGOs, experts in cities and urban issues, and really there to advise us on our cities policy in the coming years, to shape the policy and also to shape the way we measure performance in our cities, and this is a big focus for me. we announced just last week that we'd be putting in place a national cities performance framework, which will help guide our city deals and guide our cities policy more generally. So this is measuring the things that really matter: economic, social and environmental in our cities. We'll be asking our cities reference panel to support us in that work. Now, the second pillar of the Smart Cities Plan is smart investment. And if we're to achieve what we want with our cities, if we're to create the high income, great jobs, the access to jobs and services, the amenity, the livability, the sustainability we all want for our cities, that requires investment. And let's be frank, in Australia we have underinvested in our cities in recent years, on any measure. And in fact, I would argue across much of the Western world this has been true. We've underinvested in our cities. But we're coming to that recognition at exactly the time when our budgets are stretched more than ever before. And so you say, how do we resolve that? The answer has to be we have to find smarter ways of financing investments in our cities. And that is what we're doing with the establishment of an infrastructure financing unit within Prime Minister's and Cabinet. We also announced during the election campaign a Sustainable Cities Fund, which, with investment coming from the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, $100 million a year. But on top of that, the infrastructure financing unit will provide finance and investment in our cities to try and fill that gap, to close that gap we have between the needs of our cities and the ability of our budget to achieve that, because those investments will be on balance sheet but off budget. Now, the idea that governments should actually invest, not just give out grants, is one that the Prime Minister is particularly passionate about. He talks regularly about the importance of not being an automatic teller machine for the states. And in many ways, the way cities policy has been done by federal governments in the past, including the last Labor government, frankly, is that the states get upset about something, and they treat us like an automatic teller machine. When things get desperate, they come and ask for money. Well, by establishing an infrastructure financing unit and saying, no, we actually want to invest in our cities, not just hand out grants, we're changing the way we engage with the states, and local government for that matter, in our cities. So that second limb of smart investment is extremely important. All of that requires much better planning. And the truth is that I see a lot of plans for projects in our cities, but are they investable, bankable plans? The answer is no. So we've allocated $50 million for improved business planning for our cities. Now let me move then to the third pillar, and one that many of you I know will be interested in, which is smart technology. And I've been a believer throughout my career that technology is a great gift because it can enable us to do more with less. And as I said a moment ago, the great challenge we're all facing as governments is across the Western world is we just don't have the money we once had. That means technology, which can do more with less, is absolutely crucial to delivering what we need to for our cities. I'm seeing very rapid improvements, change in the way technology is being deployed in our cities, and I'm sure many of you are seeing those same changes. We're seeing cities using smart poles, Wi-Fi, sensor networks, data analytics to improve service delivery, use of infrastructure, citizen engagement, which I think is one that we need to focus much more on, and safety. We're witnessing the rise of autonomous vehicles, the Internet of Things, the sharing economy, intelligent urban precincts and smart buildings, and all of these things are being enabled by modern technologies. All this, and we're really only just starting to realise the potential, the full potential of how those technologies can be used. So to accelerate the transformation, earlier this year I joined the Prime Minister in announcing the $50 million Smart Cities and Suburbs program. The program's designed to deliver on our commitment to apply innovative technologies to those really tough urban problems that we're all trying to solve. Now, we have held a number of roundtables. We've had about 550 people contribute to those roundtables to try and design this program in a way which is going to deliver maximum impact with that $50 million of federal government investment. And today I'm pleased to announce the release of the draft Smart Cities and Suburbs Program Guidelines for public comment. You can find these on our city's website through the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. And I strongly encourage any of you who are interested in this program to put forward your views to make sure this is a program that's really going to hit the mark. As I said, it'll support collaborative tech projects, but we want projects which involve local government, industry, not-for-profit organisations and research organisations. It's those collaborations that we're looking for. We think that's where we're going to get bang for our buck. We don't want back-office technology projects. We want projects where the application is occurring from day one with local councils to actually use technologies, use new ideas, to get impact from day one. And by proving up these projects in one region, then we are looking from there to get a rollout and an application across the country. Ultimately, we're looking for projects that will improve the lives of citizens, and we need to remember always that this is ultimately about people. It's very easy to lose sight of that when we think about cities policy. A city can have all the technology in the world, but if it doesn't meet the needs of citizens, if it doesn't help deliver the types of services or information that they use in their everyday life, then it can be no more than an expensive diversion. That is central to our thinking about this program. To my mind, smart technology uses data to help citizens and local governments make better decisions and better use public assets, services, resources and spaces. It would be unfair, I think, to expect local governments to create smart cities all by themselves. We have, for the most part, pretty small councils here in Australia. They're bigger in Queensland, you know, they vary across different states. But let's face it, for the most part, they're not big. And so it is crucial that we have private sector service providers who can work across councils across Australia on new technologies, new ideas, new innovations to make our cities work better for the good of the citizens. Now, the advantage we see in having this collaborative approach where we've got service providers, NGOs, private sector players working with councils is twofold. First of all, we can leverage investment. And we've seen in other countries like the US the power of this. Earlier this year, the city of Columbus in Ohio was named the winner of the $40 million US Smart Cities Challenge. And they've leveraged more than $100 million in private resources as part of that program. So by getting a relatively small investment up front, they were able to leverage private sector resources. And we think the collaboration we're looking for in this program will help us to do that. But secondly, as I've already said, we want to see good ideas spreading quickly across council boundaries as they're proven up in one council or a group of councils as an exemplar. Now, we also see that it's important that we help incubate these projects. The truth is that I've been involved with technology all my career, and some things work better than others, and all new ideas need some form of incubation. So the program will provide local governments new to smart technology the opportunity to access expertise, build capability, establish partnerships and develop innovative proposals. The consultation on this program will run until the 20th of January 2017, so into the first part of next year. It is the holiday period, but we're all excited by technology, so I'm sure we'll get lots of good input, and I know there are many in this room seeking to provide that input. We look forward to formally launching the program for applications early next year. So thank you for having me here today. This is a big project for the federal government. It's an important project. As I say, it is one that is close to the Prime Minister's heart and is being driven from his department. I think the federal government has a very significant role to play in delivering great cities for this country. It will be a very strong focus for the government in 2017, and we really look forward to working with you on that in the course of the next 12 months and beyond. Thank you.